How you get better.
Seattle's police chief reassigned.
Chief Adrian Diaz will be stepping aside to work on special assignments.
And leadership of the department in flux.
I am incredibly honored to be asked to step in.
King 5 asking the tough questions.
With no formal, firm leadership in place right now with these changes, can you tell people is Seattle safe?
Getting you answers.
The city should have the ultimate faith in our police department.
We have team coverage tonight on the fallout of the SPD shakeup.
It's time to put up or shut up.
King 5 News at 6:30 starts now.
I want to thank the men and women of the Seattle Police Department for their hard work and the community that has supported us through every challenge. Thank you.
An emotional moment at City Hall after a shakeup at the Seattle Police Department.
King 5 has independently confirmed the command structure at the department is in flux and an interim police chief will be taking over tomorrow. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Joyce Taylor.
I'm Greg Copeland. Adrian Diaz's reassignment comes amid a police department staffing crisis and several lawsuits alleging sexism and racial discrimination. Let's take a look at some of the personnel involved here that we know of tonight. At a press conference this afternoon, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell confirmed to King 5 that Adrian Diaz is no longer the chief of police and will be reassigned to special assignments.
King 5 is also confirmed with multiple sources. Eric Barden is no longer deputy chief and was seen cleaning out his desk last night. And then just last week, King 5 reported Tyrone Davis, assistant chief of special operations, was placed on leave following a complaint to the Office of Police Accountability. We have team coverage for you tonight on the fallout. We want to start with King 5's Natalie Swaby outside of City Hall.
And Natalie, you were at that news conference this afternoon with Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell, and the search, as we understand it, is underway for the next permanent police chief.
Yes, that's right. That was the focus, as well as the recent litigation facing the department and Diaz, in some cases because of allegation of discrimination and sexism. Allegations Diaz has denied, but the mayor did address it today as he talked about the city moving in a new direction.
I'm here today to make an announcement.
An announcement of a major shakeup at the Seattle Police Department.
The kind of culture change that we want perhaps could be better served with him stepping aside.
Mayor Bruce Harrell says Adrian Diaz will no longer be the police chief. Instead, Diaz will be reassigned to a different role. That decision comes during a turbulent time for Seattle police.
I just talked about the amount of litigation. It has to be somewhat distracting.
Diaz and the department are facing multiple lawsuits.
Can you continue to evaluate or practice the type of excellence that we demand in the city while addressing the allegations?
Today, Diaz expressed his gratitude for the top job.
I want to thank the men and women of the Seattle Police Department for their hard work and the community that has supported us through every challenge. Thank you.
We're going to get through this.
For now, Interim Chief Sue Rahr will step in.
I am going to do my very best in the short time that I'm here.
The mayor says more command staff changes are being discussed.
With no formal, firm leadership in place right now with these changes, can you tell the people is Seattle safe?
The city should have the ultimate faith in our police department. They are showing outstanding leadership. This is how you get better. How you evaluate yourself. You hire people to give you feedback whether you want it or not.
As the mayor moves in a new direction, he's acknowledging Diaz for his decades of work.
That I stand with this fine leader. That is his sacrifice for 27 years that we are building upon.
Now, Diaz is being reassigned to special projects, but the mayor said they're still discussing the specifics of that role. Greg?
Natalie, we saw that Sue Rahr is stepping in. What did the mayor say about a permanent replacement?
He says that search typically takes about 4 to 6 months, and he says he wants to make sure it's a national search. Greg?
All right, Natalie Swaby outside City Hall tonight. Natalie, thank you. Well, this afternoon, we heard from the Seattle Police Officers Guild. The statement thanked Diaz for his 27 years of police service and went on to say, quote, members of SPOG are looking forward to working with Interim Chief Sue Rahr to build back our agency staffing whilst adhering to Mayor Harrell's One Seattle vision.
Diaz's time as police chief may have been short, but his career with Seattle Police has lasted, as you heard, nearly 30 years. Here's the timeline with his department. Adrian Diaz has been with Seattle Police for decades, starting as an officer in 1997. He worked patrol and anti-crime before moving to the Investigations Bureau. Diaz was promoted to lieutenant in 2014, then assistant chief in 2018. Deputy chief just before he took over for Carmen Best in the wake of the nationwide protests over policing. He was named interim chief in 2020. 2 years later, Harrell picked Diaz as the permanent chief, and he was sworn in January of 2023. He held the job for less than 2 years. Tenures for chiefs of police are shortening. Before Diaz, Carmen Best served for 6 months as an interim chief and just shy of 2 years as a permanent chief. And before that, Kathleen O'Toole was in charge for nearly 4 years, starting in 2014. A 2021 survey found that on average, chiefs at the largest departments served for more than 5 years in their roles, but that average is shortening quickly. Of the 79 largest police departments, nearly half saw leadership turnover in 2020 and 2021.
Well, his departure comes amid several lawsuits alleging racial discrimination and sexism. In April, 4 female officers filed a $5 million claim saying they have dealt with bullying, sexual harassment, and discrimination. Their attorney told King 5 he believes today's news further legitimizes his client's claims.
The bottom line is this department and this mayor has known about this culture for a very long time. What I heard the mayor say is that the chief inherited this culture, but the fact of the matter is the chief perpetuated and participated in this culture as well. And that's what the mayor also said was part of the reason he asked the chief to step aside was because all of these complaints were culminating together and they were creating a distraction.
Attorney says his clients are still with the department. Chief Diaz has previously denied the claims against him.
With Adrian Diaz now out as police chief, a new interim chief, as you heard, is in. The temporary leader, a familiar face here in King County.
Team coverage continues now with Connor Board. Connor.
Reagan Joyce, interim chief Sue Rahr has worked in King County for decades and was the sheriff for 7 years. She says she is eager to step into this role and hopes to make meaningful change.
Chief Sue Rahr will serve as interim police chief starting tomorrow.
It's a new chapter with a new face leading the Seattle Police Department. Mayor Bruce Harrell chose former King County Sheriff Sue Rahr to temporarily take over the position.
She has a history of leadership in modern policing, in culture change, in recruitment.
Rahr started her career as a deputy more than 40 years ago with the King County Sheriff's Office and led that department as sheriff from 2005 to 2012. She said there needs to be systemic change in the Seattle Police Department.
Keep playing whack-a-mole every time there's an allegation here or there, but until we change the system, we're not going to have meaningful change.
She also worked in law enforcement training as the executive director of the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission from 2012 to 2021.
What are your top priorities during your time with the Seattle Police Department?
For the first couple of weeks, it's going to be entirely focused on listening to people. I'm also going to be looking for opportunities to start work on our flexible work schedules because recruiting is right now it's a critical need, and that's something that I can do relatively quickly that I think will have a very quick impact.
Rahr has faced criticism as a leader in the past. When she started as sheriff in 2005, a blue ribbon panel recommended reforms for the sheriff's office, such as better training and ways of investigating complaints. In 2011, Rahr said they were good ideas.
They obviously found places that we can improve, and I agree with them.
Former King County Sheriff John Urquhart was an employee of Sue Rahr.
One thing I will say about her is she doesn't suffer fools very well. So I can see her going in there and making some changes.
Changes here and more could be coming as interim chief Rahr starts leading the officers of the Seattle Police Department.
And I know they've got good hearts, and I want to help them get those hearts out on display.
Rahr also served on former President Obama's task force on 21st century policing. Rahr said today she will not be applying for the permanent role. And like Natalie said earlier, Mayor Harrell said a new chief should be selected in the next 4 to 6 months. Back to you.
Being able to be a phone call away, hey, chief, I need this, I see this. who's going to do that now? Who's going to be a resource?
Much more ahead for you tonight. We are hearing from you, business owners, those impacted by crime. Team coverage continues with King 5 Sebastian Robertson coming up at 7 o'clock.
King 5 will have continuing coverage all evening, up-to-the-minute information on what's next at the department and the impact on the community. That's ahead at 7, 9, 10, and 11 on King and Kong, and online at king5.com.
We have put together an entire timeline of Adrian Diaz's time with the Seattle Police Department, the implications for the department, and the search for the next permanent police chief, all on our website. Text SPD to 206-448-4545 for a link to everything that we know tonight.
New tonight, a building and 2 houseboats are damaged after a fire at Seattle's Lake Union. This is new video of those flames tonight. Earlier this afternoon, we captured video of the thick black smoke you see here coming from the lake there. King 5's Brady Wakayama has the very latest tonight.
We're off of Westlake Avenue, just less than a mile north of Mohi. Firefighters are still on scene monitoring the situation after a houseboat caught on fire, starting a rapid response.
Oh my God, oh my God.
This is video of flames shooting up from a houseboat just around 2 o'clock this afternoon.
It's on the dock.
Seattle fire officials say the fire quickly jumped to another boat and extended to a building right next to the dock. About 75 firefighters responded to the scene and got the fire under control within 20 minutes. No injuries were reported, but one dog is missing. We spoke with workers nearby who did what they could to keep people safe.
We're trying to find a hose that we could try and put this out with, and by that time it escalated to the point where there was just no even trying. We just had to call for help.
What goes through your head is there's a fire and we got to get out and we got to make sure patients are safe and people are safe. And so just corralling everybody and leaving.
Fire crews are still investigating what may have caused this fire to start. They'll be out here for the next several hours to monitor the situation and make sure that there's no flare-ups. For now, in Seattle, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
A 78-year-old woman is dead. Police have arrested a man after a rollover crash in South Seattle. It happened this morning along 82nd and MLK Junior Way South. Detectives say the driver lost control and drove onto the sidewalk before hitting a tree. The driver and a passenger were taken to the hospital. The woman who was in the car died at the scene.
Well, tonight we are hearing from federal investigators after this large stash of weapons, illegal drugs, and explosives were all found inside a motorhome in North Bend. And now a couple faces federal charges in this case. King 5's Julie Calhoun is live with the latest. Julie.
Greg, I'm outside the federal courthouse where we had just learned the couple has now been indicted on new alleged crimes and are facing new federal charges, including unlawful possession of a machine gun and destructive devices. We spoke with Homeland Security, who's calling this a sizable operation.
Earlier this month, King County deputies responded to a shooting near a motorhome in North Bend. Braden Wilson had been shot in the arm, and his girlfriend, Chandler Bennett, was a witness. He had to be medevaced for treatment, but soon the victim would turn into a suspect.
It led to significant suspicion about the circumstances.
Deputies noticed these security cameras pointing where the shooting happened, but the couple wouldn't let them see the footage or go inside the RV, so deputies got a warrant.
They had everything that you don't want to be around in a small recreational vehicle.
Now, the two are charged with federal crimes after investigators say they found a stash of weapons, drugs, and explosives, including automatic weapons. Court documents say many of them are without serial numbers. Investigators say they also found a 3D printer for making gun parts, body armor, and dozens of grenades.
It was dangerous for our teams to be there, for the individuals that were living in the RV, and we were very concerned about what the intent was with possession of those items.
Investigators say they found multiple kilograms of fentanyl powder, chemicals to make the drugs, and thousands of pills, including counterfeit ones.
This was a fairly sizable operation. One of the pill presses that was seized in the search warrant over the weekend was capable of producing hundreds of thousands of pills. And this raises another alarming pattern that we see within our public, that when individuals ingest pills, they have no idea what is in fact going into this.
Federal agents say their investigation is far from over. If the couple is convicted of the allegations against them, they could spend up to 35 years behind bars. The two will be back in court next week to answer to those charges. We're now live in Seattle. Julie Calhoun, King 5 News.
I read the autopsy report.
Sir, I'm going to ask you to address any comments to me.
I read the autopsy report. This is not self-defense.
Emotions running high in court today as a father and widow asked a Seattle judge to keep the man accused of stabbing Corey Bellet to death in custody.
The lawyer for the man accused of killing him argues that Sean Moore was acting in self-defense. Here's King 5's Brady Wakayama.
This man made a decision to execute him. These are not defensive wounds. They are an execution.
I don't want to lose the justice for Corey. He deserves that.
Back on May 11th, Bellet was stabbed multiple times at the Capitol Hill light rail station. According to court documents, Bellet and Moore started pushing and slapping each other during an argument. Police say transit video shows Moore pulling out a box knife and stabbing Bellet. He fell on the light rail tracks, and Moore leaned over and continued to stab him.
He slit his trachea and his jugular vein. That is a heinous criminal act.
Police say Moore ran away, and Bellet climbed back up and got help from people nearby. He was taken to the hospital, where he died from 3 stab wounds.
And he lost his life for a small altercation. Of course, they say some words were said, but that doesn't cause for death.
Moore sobbed in court as his father and fiance asked the judge to release him.
I fully and wholeheartedly feel that he is not a danger to society, nor does he pose a threat to anyone.
This man has no business in the community.
Ultimately, the judge kept the bail at $3 million and kept Moore in custody.
And now he's not here, but that gentleman is, and someone needs to pay, and he needs to pay.
I've seen the best and the worst of humanity. This is the worst. And my son deserves justice.
Reporting for King 5 News, I'm Brady Wakayama.
Ahead tonight, poison hemlock infestation. An invasive weed is starting to pop up across King County. We're going to explain the dangers behind this plant.
I'm Lionel Donovan in Tacoma. Coming up, a new ban on styrofoam products goes into effect this weekend. I'll take a look at its potential impact on small businesses.
Also, the latest on our top story tonight, the command structure at the Seattle Police Department in flux. Police Chief Adrian Diaz is being reassigned, and former Sheriff Sue Rahr will take over as interim police chief. At least one other position is affected. Eric Barden, no longer deputy chief.
Our team coverage of the fallout of this shakeup continuing at 7 o'clock. We will be right back.